So number one, pause before making big decisions. So obviously, any type of emotional decision cannot is not always the best decision. Um, it's some people say build a decision free zone. So you make no decisions for like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So you just park everything into a high yield savings account or wherever it is, and you just leave it there, and you just adjust, and then you figure out how to work it into your current financial situation. Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. Are you curious about how to manage a sudden money windfall? I'm Casey Smith, joined with Senior Financial Advisor Shauna Theriault. Each week, we bring you practical advice on retirement investing and planning for your financial future. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Let's get started. Hey, Shauna.
Morning.
So today's Tuesday. For those who don't come to Wiser headquarters very often, Shauna and I are kept very separate from each other. I don't know if they do that on purpose. We're both talkers. Maybe they're concerned about,
getting work done.
It's
a hard boss.
I'm in one side, you're on the other side of the office, but today's a Tuesday. So I get to see Shauna on the podcast today. So
absolutely.
And we're in this kind of new podcast space. I think you and Michaela did the very first recording
We
in
did.
here.
This is nice in here.
So it's very soundproof now. It's got all this fancy lighting and honestly, when they close the door and we start recording, I feel like I want to take a nap. It's very relaxing.
It is relaxing. Agreed.
Yes. I think me with my head down this desk, taking a nap, would end up somewhere on social media. Someone would record that.
That would be bad.
Probably,
but you're always go. I can't picture you taking naps.
Probably with a mustache on my forehead or my lip or something.
You're always ready to go.
Yes, I am. Go.
You're always ready to go.
Done anything fun lately?
Just getting ready for the season end event and cheerleading for 2 of my 3 daughters.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cheerleading. Let me guess.
The summit.
It's a year-end event. Sounds big. It's probably in Orlando.
It is.
All the cheer stuff's in Orlando.
It is. Like. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're going to go see Mickey while you're there.
Yes.
You wear the Mickey ears when you go to...
No, that gives you a headache. It hurts. No, but we're definitely going to see Mickey while we're there.
Do you have like a favorite t-shirt you wear when you go?
I wear Disney shirts, sure. And cheer shirts. We have summit shirts that we wear there. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So I look the part with my girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Only have a couple more years of this. So,
that's nice in that there's an ending. With my daughter, we didn't do cheer. We did horses. And there seems to be no ending in sight. So.
I think that's the other sport that's more expensive than cheerleading is horseback riding. Because cheerleading is expensive, but horseback riding is over the top.
You can't top maintaining 3 horses. There's no. It's great. They're beautiful animals.
And it doesn't end when high school's over. So
no, hopefully she makes the big stage. We'll see. She's doing really well. It's just a lot of it's hard on your body. She sees a chiropractor, I think every week and a half.
I guess I could see that.
All the jumping.
Yeah.
Especially cross country. It's just really hard on your body. She's a small girl.
So does she have to work out in between to just stay in shape, or does she stay in shape from doing it?
She stays in shape with the muscles that she uses. She probably could use more of a full body workout.
Mm-hmm.
And she did that for a little while, but now she says there's no time, and she's 17 and I'm dumb as dirt.
Well, I understand that. I have 2 teenagers, so I understand. We're all, and then I have a middle schooler, so she's almost a teenager. Yeah. So I'm getting to the point where I'm as dumb as dirt, but I still have one that likes me a little bit right now.
My son's home from college. So he's the golfer in the family. He plays at Mississippi State, and he takes all online classes. So he's in school with 20,000 kids, but he doesn't know anybody. He only knows 12 people, and they're all on the golf team.
Wow.
And so anyway, he's in for the U.S. Open qualifier this week, and
that's exciting.
He was just sitting on the back porch with me last night. I was doing some work, and he just kind of sat down and he was looking up something. And it was nice to have a nice little conversation,
Yeah.
And it was, I wasn't dumb as dirt. Maybe he's coming out of that phase.
Coming out of that phase.
Yes. She's going into the phase.
Yes,
so I don't know.
Exactly.
Kids are, one of our, at least I see it as a benefit, is working with so many families over all different age spectrums. And, the families that have kids that have already grown, they're some of the best encouragers. because I'll tell stories like that when we, have catch up and meetings and stuff. And
Yes.
they always say, hey, they come back around eventually. They come back around eventually.
I'm like holding out for that.
I'm holding out for that. Yeah. I'm holding them to it. They don't come back around. I'm calling you to figure out what's going on. But yeah, and I think my favorite ages were like from 5 to 12.
Yeah.
That was kind of my favorite, but it's over. It's over so fast.
It is fast, but it's the slowest, fastest process you'll go through because it's like the days are long and
Yes.
it feels long, but then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, what just happened? So,
I know. I remember when we were really young and that diaper budget, I'm sure it's 5 times what I had to pay for diapers now, but
I don't know. People
remember.
come in and they're about to have kids and it's like daycare and diapers and they're like, it's so expensive. I'm like, you just wait until there's college cars, car insurance,
Right.
cell phones, all the sports. I'm like,
all
it's
the
actually
stuff.
really cheap when they're babies. It's really inexpensive.
Yeah, that's true. They don't have a whole lot that they have to sign up for.
It feels expensive though, but I'm telling you, it's like, it gets worse. I promise.
All right. Well, let's hop into today's topic. So, when you think about a sudden money windfall, that could come from several things. It could be you work at a company that goes public. It could be that you're selling your business. I wouldn't say that would be sudden. You probably have been working on that for a while.
Hopefully you have plans.
Yeah, there aren't usually a fire sale of a business is not a good thing. Inheritance could be sudden because maybe you don't know, parents kept things close to the vest or whatever. So we see this quite a bit, and we thought that'd be interesting to go down kind of our steps of what we tell people that are going through these things. So first of all, windfalls can be life-changing. And I would think add one more, like a lawsuit settlement.
Right. I was just going to say that because we've seen that a lot lately with accidents.
Yes. On a smaller scale, I've had a couple of clients over the years at the very large scale settlements. Bad things happen. A lot of money was paid out. In 100% of those cases, that money's gone. They managed to spend that money. They've never seen that kind of money before. They got it. And the money's gone.
Same with lottery winners usually.
Yes. Well, yeah, there's whole shows about that. I
actually knew somebody that won the lottery and that happened. And it was
Did they have to file bankruptcy?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it was like
all the money just kind of disappeared.
Yes. They spent it down even though we did a plan. And yes,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah. It's there's a whole show on TV about people. And I don't remember the exact percentage. I don't want to say something that's not accurate, but it was, I want to say it was in the 80-something%. It was very, very high. A number of people who win the big lottery, not even just a little lottery, but big lottery,
right?
End up filing bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. There was a guy a long time ago that won the lottery and he won a lot. It was a big number. And he hired advisors and he wanted to double his money in the next 5 years. And he was buying businesses and all kinds of things. I always wondered what happened to him. I couldn't really find anything in the news about him when we were talking about this. But so number one is take a deep breath, right? All this can be life-changing, and if mismanaged, it can disappear very quickly. So that's something that you have to understand. I see that with inheritance sometimes.
Yeah.
We work for a family where the wife inherited assets from the parents. She's been a great steward of those assets and growing them. The brother started buying NetJet subscriptions and spent all the money.
Right.
So over like a few years, 3, 4, 5 years, he took it down basically to zero.
And I've seen where families have done that. And then like the brother in that case, I don't know, this happened, would like reach out to the sister and be like, I need help financially because they,
right.
were good stewards.
I need some more money.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. And sometimes you see that in families where, it was like that even when the parents were alive, where it was like helping to support the one child who could
That's
never
true.
like, get there financially and then they get their inheritance and spend that. And
I mean, you can design trust to help protect that as a parent if you think that's going to be the case,
right.
where they can't spend that fast.
Which is what we generally recommend.
So number one, pause before making big decisions. So obviously any type of emotional decision is not always the best decision. It's some people say build a decision-free zone. So you make no decisions for like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So you just park everything into a high yield savings account or wherever it is, and you just leave it there. and you just adjust, and then you figure out how to work it into your current financial situation.
Well, and I would like to say with that, just parking it, just be careful, because I wouldn't want to have a ton of money in just a bank account, over the FDIC limit either. So I would look at maybe opening a brokerage account, maybe like at Charles Schwab is what we use, where they have like SIPC insurance coverage, and then they have Lloyd's of London that sit on top of that. So I wouldn't want to put like, $1 million or some dollars in a bank account just sitting there if it's over the FDIC limit, or you can spread it out for various banks. So just be wary of that. If you're just pausing, which you should, if it's, especially if it's like inheritance or some large thing you weren't expecting, emotional is usually tied to an inheritance a lot of times.
Right.
And so it's just don't make huge financial decisions then, but make sure that your money's protected wherever it's at.
Assembling your financial team. So you want a fiduciary financial advisor to be your quarterback. So this person's going to probably bring a tax professional, estate planning attorney, and insurance specialist with them.
Right.
If not, then you can assemble that team and tell them all to play nice. But you want a fiduciary advisor to be able to coordinate, to give you a long-term financial plan, help manage the tax implications. So CPAs, their job is to save you taxes today,
right?
But they really don't think about long-term. And that's where that plan comes in. You don't see too many CPAs recommending conversions,
no,
IRA to Roth conversions.
Well, because they don't have the full financial picture.
Correct.
They're not running a whole cash flow.
They're just looking at year by year.
Right. And they can
Correct.
look at how can I save you money next tax year? And they look at that, but they're not looking at your whole financial picture, because they're not looking at all of your other accounts in your whole situation, which, if they were, then they could.
Then the estate planning attorney is going to be there to help. Hey, if something happens to you, how do you pass this on to the next generation?
Right.
And there's no better time to figure that out as you're inheriting the assets, or as you receive the assets.
Right.
It's very important from a business sale, because you probably had a business succession plan in place, but if once you sold the business, have you done the work after that? Because that succession plan doesn't apply anymore.
It's your personal assets at that point.
It's a personal asset now. So you need to be working with the estate planning attorney, but through connection with the financial advisor, because the financial advisor is going to have that long-term plan in place. And again, if you have the wrong financial advisor who's really just an asset manager, I was writing about this yesterday for an article. They're only going to be focused on investments. That's not what a fiduciary advisor is going to be doing. A fiduciary advisor should be building a plan that looks beyond just the asset management and asset allocation. So if you have a financial advisor who's only looking at asset allocation, that's a salesperson most likely, and not a true fiduciary advisor.
Right. And some of them will do a calculator of sorts where they're looking at, your assets should last your lifetime. Okay, well, that's great. It's helpful. You can do those online too. But it's really, what happens if something destroys my plan, like early death or disability, or, do I have enough insurance in place if I get sued? How do my assets flow if I pass away in my estate plan? There's so many different pieces to a financial plan. The investments is an important piece, but it's only one tiny piece of the pie.
Yeah.
An important piece, but they're all important. They have to go coherently together.
And that's where the insurance part comes in.
Right.
Having the right protection, not buying an annuity.
No.
Not buying whole life insurance with your inheritance or your business sale. Run from that person. Again, that's why a fiduciary advisor would be able to protect you from people like that.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
So we kind of have this plan together. Now we need to understand the tax implications. So selling a business, hopefully that's not a last minute decision. As we said earlier, hopefully this is something that's been in the works for a while and you've been working with this team for 5 years prior to get the sale optimized tax wise. But you want to understand what capital gains are on the sale. Is it going to be an installment sale? Are there qualified small business stock exclusions, things of that nature? Those are all things that have to be planned out ahead of time. If you have an IPO, you have to recognize the tax treatments of restricted stock units, any potential alternative minimum tax issues. Those are all tax related items that you need to figure out. Don't just let it happen and then show up and go, well, this happened this year when there could have been things that you could have done to plan for that. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
A lot of times this is where the donor advised funds come in, because if you have a large windfall in 1 year, that's a great opportunity to then take a portion of that and put it into a donor advised fund for charitable purposes.
Yeah.
That's probably the primary use of them, if I had to guess, versus, adding a little bit each year. Inheritance, people who receive inheritance, remember you get a step up in basis on the stock. So that's a great opportunity. And the house, right?
Yeah, anything that's outside of retirement accounts.
That's a great opportunity to then change the portfolio, because very often the money that you're inheriting is kind of managed like the old school way. Probably got mutual funds, individual stocks,
stocks.
So that's a great opportunity to sell them with no tax consequences, and then move into a portfolio that's made really for you, and maybe a modern portfolio that's made up of more ETFs and index type funds. Let's talk about, taxes. Typically, if you do your tax planning, you're going to know what you owe.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to do is start in investing money and buying real estate, and yet you have $600,000 in tax you got to pay. That money needs to be locked down somewhere safe, ready to pay the bill when it comes due.
That reminds me, I had this situation years ago where a grown child who was relatively young inherited an IRA account and took a full distribution of said inherited IRA from the dad. And of course, we, recommended not doing that. He passed away suddenly, and, she came in as the beneficiary, and we explained the taxes, all of that, did not recommend taking it. So she took a full distribution of this IRA, even though we explained the tax implications, bought a house. And then come April, she had taxes due and didn't have any money to pay the taxes, because you can't sell a portion of the house.
Hopefully she got a HELOC to pay off the tax bill.
It was like a really hard situation.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you have to protect your heirs from themselves because they don't know any different.
Yeah, that goes back to legacy planning.
Right.
And it's nothing that you can just do in one meeting, but it goes back to, teach your kids about money and how things work.
Right.
It's tough. It's hard. It's hard to teach a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12-year-old when they're actually listening, because they don't grasp the big world yet. And then when they start seeing the world, we'll go back to we started our conversation. You're dumb as dirt. So I feel like there's some mentorship that probably should happen in the 20s, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing. I'm not there yet, but there's got to be some mentorship somewhere. I mean, there's basics. Hey, don't make more than you, or don't spend more than you make. And that's basic stuff you can do when you're little. Teaching people to be charitable with their money, that's something you can do when you're little, but stuff like that, the tax stuff.
Right. Well, but even I see this all the time though, Casey. It's like, you have your will in place and you're like, oh, I already have a trust set up in my will for my kids, but then you leave your 401k 100% to them, which doesn't go through the will. So I'm like, this doesn't have a trust set up unless you have it going through somewhere that has a trust.
Right.
So it may be unintentional. It may be, I buttoned everything up with my estate plan, but I didn't put the beneficiaries as the titling correctly on the assets. So it didn't really do what I was intending it to do.
Right.
And then sometimes when we're in our 50s and 60s, it's like, oh, well, I'm still healthy. I don't really need to worry about that now, especially in your 40s. A lot of people don't do things with estate planning, or even younger. And it's so important. When I say the words estate planning to someone, it's like, well, I don't have that much money yet. And it's like, yeah, but you have little kids, like that name's the guardian, or your little child is going to inherit all this money because hopefully you have term life insurance. Well, and then who manages that money? The courts are going to decide who manages it if your child inherits all this money.
When you're younger, you have more money than you think because it's the life insurance.
Exactly. So it's like maybe you don't have a large estate yet per se, but then you have all this life insurance and you're leaving it to, your child who's a minor. And if you don't have that in place, who's going to take, who's the guardian of that child? Who's going to manage that money and the term insurance policy? The courts are going to decide who's managing all that. Well, what if they choose your brother who is irresponsible with money? I don't know. Like, they could choose somebody who they think is appropriate. They don't know the inner workings of them and they blow the money. You decide where it goes. So it's so important. So it doesn't really matter if you have millions of dollars. It's really, simply a way to set it up how you would like if something happens to you.
Sure.
So,
yeah. I've always liked the idea of having a cover letter too. I think if you put a letter on top of all your estate planning, that might help. I mean, you're not going to
it is. You're
not going to lecture them, but maybe there's a little more thought on their part because there's a letter.
Wishes. Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but I'm also a big fan of starting, I see a lot of parents that have savings accounts for their kids. And when we talked about legacy planning and teaching them about money, there's a lot of parents that have like savings accounts that are, they're like putting it in a savings account, a bank. Great. It's earning whatever, nothing.
Right.
Open a custodial account and invest some of that. There's no minimum to do it like Charles Schwab. You can buy $50 into the S&P 500, if mutual fund or something. Not that we normally use mutual funds or ETFs, but it's getting them to start learning about that and talking about the market and talking about investments. And so maybe it gets their interest because they need to learn about money. And when they're first working and, doing 401ks, at least you've already had that conversation their whole life about this investment account that you've talked to them about and been teaching them about it.
Probably the big thing is for a lot of people, it's just keeping them out of debt.
Right. Yeah. That's a hard conversation too.
Yeah. Especially when they're adults, they can do their own thing. They want it now.
Yeah.
I was joking with a younger couple that came in and ended up being kind of free advice. And they didn't really have resources to pay us. And we weren't going to charge them obviously, but for the 45 minutes I had with them, I told them this, Metro Atlanta is a really tough place to be financially responsible because you're surrounded by millions of people who are not financially responsible.
Yeah.
And I was encouraging them to get their student loans paid off, get rid of $8,000 in credit card debt. But I said, it's tough. You go out there and you look around and you go, man, everybody has this nice stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, there's a bunch of broke people who have good incomes because they're older and they've advanced in their careers and they're not in their early 20s, they're in their mid 30s.
Yeah.
So it can be hard to make the right decisions, but that's where you have to kind of teach your children and kind of nurture them. And also maybe tell them even about your mistakes and say, hey, I haven't been perfect. This is what I got myself into. And if you could have 10 years free of this, you'd be way ahead of where you think I am right now.
Right.
So I think the next generation has a better chance at that. Maybe my generation a little bit. But like my parents' generation. And then I think even beyond there, they're like super secretive about money. They don't talk very openly about it.
No, they don't.
All right. So let's talk about once you've kind of gotten over all these, this initial, period. And now you have X amount of dollars. It goes back to really what our, financial planning, or we call it the order of operation, right? You want to eliminate stupid debt, no credit cards, right? Maybe should eliminate cars if you can. Make sure the house is on track to get paid off by the time you're 65. Roll into next emergency reserve. Do I have enough reserves?
Yeah.
And you need to determine that with your advisor and how much you should have. Typically it's 6 to 12 months worth of expenses. If you're retired, you want to have about 2 years worth of expenses. Then you roll into, the next thing is, am I okay for my retirement? If you'd already done your own planning and you know that your retirement's safe and the kids' college is checked off, then this could be what we call opportunity money.
Right.
It's like, hey, I've got extra money. What do I do? Am I going to buy a second home, create kind of legacy experience there? Am I put it in a rental program? Am I just going to put this money in a brokerage account and let it build over time and I'll find something in the future? Is there something that, is there it doesn't always have to be investments, but there's one thing I've always wanted to do. Now I'm going to take the time to do it. I'm going to bring these people with me.
Yeah.
Right. So these are all things that would come up in a kind of a review of your own financial plan or create your own financial plan. You do have to be aware of a few things. Lifestyle creep. That's a real, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you have more money, and now all of a sudden, every day you go to Starbucks, but you buy Starbucks for you and all your friends. And, you go to buy a car, but you buy the car, it's $30,000 more this time. Or all of a sudden, all your whole lifestyles cost you more on a monthly basis.
Right.
So you have to be very careful of that. Also, I have said this a couple of times in 25 years I've been planning, where people have sat in front of me and said, what is my biggest risk if I retire right now? And looking at the whole situation, remember, they pay me to be honest. They pay us to be honest.
Yeah.
I responded and I said, your children. And the husband and the wife, they go, what? Your children. It's like, you just told me about your lifestyle and everything that you do, and all this fits in just fine. You can retire tomorrow, but you also tell me that you had to give your child $20,000. You have this child, you paid $30,000 for rehab. You pay this child over here doesn't have a job, and you're paying for the grandkids, whatever, right? So taking care of your adult children and their children is what's going to bankrupt you in retirement.
Right.
So you have to be very careful of family, of gifting and giving money out.
Yeah. Making sure it lasts for you. But it's also, it's that hard thing of, what is the next generation going to do if you just bail them out all the time too? What are they going to teach their kids? And,
I've never been put in that situation. I feel like I've lived through it with other clients.
Yeah.
And I would say that it is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. What do you do? What do you do when it's $30,000 to send someone to a program, and you know that they need this program? They don't have any means to pay for it. You can squeak by and try to figure it out. Wouldn't you pay it? I think I would probably pay it.
Yeah. Yeah. And something like that.
Because when your kid hurts, you hurt.
Right.
Right. But if you keep having to do it over and over and over again, and they're draining you, and you have to go back into the workforce. Yeah. I mean, that's really tough.
It is tough.
That's tough. So I definitely don't want to, that's a totally different situation from having a special needs child that you need to provide for long-term, who's still living at home. Yeah. That I would never tell a person that's the reason why you can't retire.
No,
that's insensitive.
No.
But when you just keep handing out money to a perfectly normal person, you can go get a job, which is what the situation was that I was looking at.
Mm-hmm. I've seen several of those too.
Yeah. That's what you have to be careful. You gotta take care of your immediate family, you and your spouse at that point. And then you can decide, okay, I have extra, I know I'm a budget to be able to do these things.
Well, because if you don't, then you may end up being a burden on your kids in the future anyway, because then you don't have the money to sustain yourself. They don't have the money to help you.
Right.
And, it just is a bad situation.
Right.
So you're really prolonging it for the family.
Charitable giving. So we talked about this earlier, creating a donor advised fund. If you want to be more giving of assets, when you receive the large lump sum, you can allocate your giving amount over here. Some people have really big hearts and they start giving, and the next thing you know, they've given too much.
Yeah.
And so by creating a budget for that and putting it into one fund that you can then disperse money out of, might be a more operationally sound way of
it's a quick way to say, I get a tax deduction this year, but I haven't really given it to the charity yet. I've put it in this fund that is for charity, and then you decide where it goes. Yep. So that way it gives you time to make special considerations to different charities, et cetera. So that way it's not you trying to get it all done by, if you have this windfall and it comes in, then you do that one just contribution, if you will, get the deduction now, and then decide where it goes to what charity.
I think common mistakes to avoid in all of this is spending without a plan. That's like the lottery winner syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Underestimating taxes. You can know exactly, you can do a tax return ahead of time, You're not even though you're not filing anything, you can do a tax return. You should know exactly what you owe.
Right.
Failing to diversify investments. I see that one as a big one. You can't put everything in one thing and it falls apart. And then ignoring your long-term goals for short-term gratification would be probably the last most common mistake we see is they want to do this right now. It's the net jet syndrome. We're going to fly net jets everywhere, but you really don't have that much money. You're spending down your principal at a very rapid rate, right? But in the end, it's just having a plan and laying it all out. And I think 99% of the people who walk into a wealth management firm are probably these people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why are you at a wealth management firm if you're going to spend all your money?
Right.
So these are probably tidbits you can pass on to someone else. It's kind of like that Freakonomics book. I love that book. It talks about, sometimes I think people even probably listen to this podcast know this, but does reading a parenting book make you a better parent? And did he do a study? And actually, no, it doesn't.
It's just wanting to read.
It's the wanting to read a parenting book makes you a better parent.
Right. Because you're obviously open to it and you're not just closed-minded.
Correct.
Ignorant.
So it's probably the same way with the podcast is listening to a wealth management podcast make you a better investor. I hope so, but maybe just wanting to listen to one.
Right. Wanting to learn more.
Wanting to learn more and understand more.
Right.
Makes you a better.
So maybe that makes you pause because you're like, oh, maybe I should learn more about that. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about a few more episodes you might want to listen to. Episode 278, avoid these common mistakes after receiving a large inheritance. Episode 227, I've inherited $200,000. What should I do? And then we have a YouTube channel called A Wiser Retirement where you can watch videos like how do you have to pay taxes on inheritance, and does income count, or does inheritance count as income? Those are all built into our A Wiser Retirement podcast or YouTube channel, where we have a lot of we have 90,000 views over the last 90 days. Or actually, I mean, 30 days. I have to go back and look at that. I'll get back to you guys. But no, I just know that there's 90,000 views in a very short time period on the YouTube channel. So it's been pretty popular.
Great.
All right. Thanks, Shauna.
I'll
see you again for the next podcast.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to A Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investor advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guests of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.